Is everybody seeing a message saying recording started?
Yeah, recording and transcript. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, all right, now it is 7:04. I want to start by telling everybody that this meeting is being recorded, and welcome to the Mendon Conservation Commission meeting for January 22nd, 2026. So we have remote members and members in the audience, in the room. So we're going to do roll call. Start with the people on Teams. Carl,
Carl Hummel,
Isabella Genova, the agent.
Terrence Moore.
Susan Cahalan. Are you writing?
Peter Kaufman.
and Chairman Bob Sweet. Welcome, everybody. Good and welfare for the public. Does anybody have anything that they would like to discuss? Anybody on Teams have anything they'd like to speak on? Anybody in the room? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to start the public hearings. So it's 7:06, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, 61 Kingsley Lane, file number 26-001.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Doherty. I'm a civil engineer with Midpoint Engineering and Consulting, and also the applicant in this matter and the next matter. I do have a check for the advertising that Isabella had asked me to bring tonight or mail in. I don't know if her not being here, do you want me to drop it off or bring it down to town hall tomorrow?
Isabella will be back Monday.
Okay, I'll just bring it down.
You can also,
maybe.
you can leave him with Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I can give it to her.
Okay.
We go out later, Bob.
Yep.
So, this public hearing, we're discussing 61 Kingsley Lane. It's a property that's been in my family since I think about 1965. It's where my parents had lived, when they lived, they both passed away. We've kept that as a family house. Here tonight for, I've applied to the state DEP for a chapter 91 simplified license for a dock on Ditmont Farm. The dock would be in the same location as been for about the last 30 years. So it's an existing dock. It's not something new, but I wanted to get the license in and get it that license properly. For the first 25 years or so, it was a wooden dock that finally gave way 5 years ago. We put in a modular aluminum frame dock that we put out in the spring and take out in the fall. Each section is about 10 feet. There's two of those sections, and then there's one ramp section that goes from shore to the first section. And then there's composite boards that get placed on the frame. It's the part of the process with the state is to go before the Conservation Commission, either through an NOI process or an RDA. I'm asking here that I get a negative determination on an RDA, as there won't be any new, any excavation, any filling of in the pond or land underwater. It's just would be seasonally putting out the dock and taking it.
Yeah, but, oh. No. All set?
Yes.
At this point, I'd like to open it up to the commission members. We'll start with the Teams people. Any questions, concerns?
No, I didn't go on the site walk, so do people have observations from that?
That's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Just a question. Thank you for coming in, and I understand you've had one there and you've been there, and I'm just, I'm not sure how many docks are there that haven't been getting the license. So we're trying to clean up the act, and so thank you for following through on this. So it's just the precedence, because this one, normally I would think neighbors might want to comment, and that's the advantage of having a public hearing. If we find that there's no negative impact, they're not going to have that chance to comment. On this case, I don't feel so bad because it's been there a while and it's not causing anything new. But I just don't know what our precedence is. So what is the appropriate thing to do? If you don't do it for one, you got to do it for others.
I can make one comment on that. As part of the state process, you have to notify your butter on either side of you on the shoreline.
The two of us, okay.
You have to do that by a certified man.
And does the state have a hearing or the state's?
There's a 30-day review period where you can send in written comments.
So if your neighbors have an issue, they will receive a green card saying that you're going for this,
60.
and they would have 30 days to write a comment to the state.
There should be two
And
cards.
part of the packet I sent out what the state permit, they included that in this RDA. And you can see at the end, they're a certified list and sent the notification to each of the abutters.
So it's just, well, it's how we're going to handle this specific one, but my general question is how are we handling any request for deck? And do we make a distinction between one that's been there for many years versus a brand new one?
Well,
Adopt.
in my opinion, I went to the site, I saw the documentation provided here is filled out, it's pretty detailed. The state has been notified, so the homework has all been done. It's a good template for moving forward. So that being said, I personally don't see any impact or reason that it would be
Make them
controversial.
go through those hoops and pay the money and have a public hearing. I probably agree with you. I'm just worried about the precedent, that's all. And that's,
And if we can get the precedent where somebody comes in with the right paperwork filled out with the drawings that belong to the project and ask for permission rather than forgiveness, I would welcome that.
And part of it is, if we're a new dock, in, for instance, if they were putting a concrete landing, needing to do some grading to get to the dock, they would give the commission a chance to review and make comments on where the location is. And I believe it's almost by right that, if you live on the lake, you have access to the lake, so it's a large kind of use, for fishing and recreation. But obviously, maybe one spot that's better than another. And if you were doing excavation next to the lake, you may want to go to a notice of intent.
Right, and that's what I was gonna speak to is, your particular situation is no disturbance to land or water. So at that point, it takes away the environmental concern or mitigates it to a point.
and you take it out each fall or something and put it up on the yard or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And these ice reefs have it with docks unless you have piers that are, penetrating the ground. So anything that's, kind of on or with feet that are sitting on the base will get all twisted or pulled out. That's why you need to remove it.
Peter, I'm sorry.
So this winter and last winter, but the 3 before that, it never froze over.
Terry, you have a
Yeah,
question?
Peter, if we ever get to the point of discussing regulations, that I think is a policy issue that we would probably use to look at what are the dock regulations that we would adopt as a committee.
Right, but until we do that, we're kind of shooting from the hip, so I understand that, so I'm just trying to look, it's a learning process for us.
Right.
So,
I think like this is a great book. Because it's got all the stuff. Yep. Yeah.
those are my concerns or my questions.
Any other questions from the board?
I agree with you, Peter. There's just not much we could do tonight.
At this point, I'll open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions in the audience? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm not sure if we close this and that's what we do here, or we just quickly do. Isabel.
I guess this is the hearing, right? So we close the hearing and
Okay,
then.
we'll close the public hearing for 60.
61.
61, yeah, the other one's.
Yep, 61.
61.
There's a motion on the table to close the public hearing for 61 Kingsley Lane. Do I have a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Could I ask, we have a note from our conservation agent that perhaps a condition could be attached to the motion. I don't know how people feel about that. The Chapter 91 license submission. It's on the piece of paper.
Just consider a condition that it's a 3-year period, that the determination is valid. I don't see anything wrong with that, if we want to have that.
That should be on.
You got it?
Yeah, actually, it's right here. So,
You want me to amend my motion?
Well, no, we're closing the hearing.
Well, I'm asking if the condition should be attached to the, oh, I'm sorry, we haven't voted on closing the hearing. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
We need
So-
to discuss this before we close the hearing.
Is that right? Okay, well,
So,
then what, a motion to give a negative determination of applicability?
No,
With the
well,
amendment of Chapter 91 license, what's the process?
before, we cannot deliberate once we close the hearing. Therefore, before we close the hearing, we must consider the staff comment and decide whether or not to add that to the draft motion.
so am I reading this right? And the thought process on this is every 3 years would be a recertification?
No, an RDA is valid for 3 years, so within the 3-year period, the applicant should apply for and receive their Chapter 91 license. So the condition will be that they submit the license or the license number to the commission once they receive the license.
Just showing that he's received the permit.
Right, so how far along are you in the process of?
I think we're 30 days of nearly up, so then I just have to, once I receive the negative determination, I upload all the information. And then they have 30 days to issue the license.
So now the question's been raised, should we put a condition on here that it goes no longer than 3 years to get the certification of the dock to our office?
Well, we're going to get it quicker than that, because he might
Correct.
knock in, so that's.
Right, but the question is, do we want to put something in this determination that, some kind of language that says it needs to be fulfilled within 3 years?
No,
So that way there, it can't go past that.
Bob?
That applicant submits the license as soon as he gets it, and that's
Yes.
gotta be within 3 years.
That's correct.
Okay. Carl?
Mr. Chair, yeah, here, I'll give you the parliamentary Roberts rules thing. Someone is going to make a motion to issue the determination of applicability. When they make that motion, they will either include the condition in the staff comment or they will choose not to. So we're having a discussion now and trying to get a consensus among the members on the board whether we want to have that happen or not, because otherwise we may end up having to play parliamentary procedure games with someone makes the motion and then someone makes an amendment to the motion to deal with the staff comment. So in order to shortcut that whole thing, we're trying to have a discussion now and say, do people think it's a good idea to have it or not? That way, whoever makes the motion can be guided by what the consensus of the commission is.
Okay,
So
so,
we like there's a consensus.
so I'll entertain a motion to add
No, you
language.
can't. We have to close first. What you want to do is sort of like take a straw poll and say, people look around and say, do people think this is a good idea? And if people nod their heads up and down, then whoever makes the motion knows to include the condition. If people say, nah, I don't think it's worth doing, then whoever makes the motion doesn't need to include that.
Mr. Chair, you look at the parliamentary procedure, and I'm sorry. The hearing can be closed, and after that, we're not going to take any more new information. But after the hearing is closed, we can get into a discussion and make all sorts of amendments and what we want to do, correct?
I think that's what Kyle just said.
Yeah.
So close the hearing and then put the conditions on. So a motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing. Discussion has been had. Any questions from the audience? I don't know if you get to have them or not, but I'll ask anyways. All right, so at this point, I'll entertain a roll call
All in favor,
vote.
say.
Carl Hummel, I vote aye to close the public hearing.
Aye.
Aye.
Off and on.
Bob, aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, so now it is the,
I'll make a motion. That's where we're going.
yep,
I move to issue a determination of applicability for the positive 2B and negative 2 for 61 Kinsley Lane, number 26-001.
And
and
And that we're going to make sure that the chapter 91 license be submitted by the applicant once acquired within the 3-year period that the determination is valid.
all right, so a motion has been made to accept the determination of applicability with condition that it is resolved within the 3-year time period. Is there a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
That's out of interest. Once we get this, and he gets his license from the state, isn't that good for
Ever?
10 years, forever?
Yeah.
So it's not as if he has to come back every 3
No,
years.
just to
He
make
just
sure.
has to do it within the 3-year period.
Okay, so at this point, I'll take a roll call vote.
Carl Hummel, aye.
Terrence Moore, aye.
Susan Cahalan, aye. Peter Whiting,
You're off and on.
Bob Sweet, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so now, item agenda number 5, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, 54 Kingsley Lane, number 26-002.
Thank you. And once again, my name is Patrick Doherty. I'm a civil engineer with Midland Engineering Consulting, and I'm also the applicant. And we're talking about 54 Kingsley Lane. It's a grandfathered lot that has never had a structure on it. My family owns the abutting lot and also the abutting lot to that. This particular lot is owned by my brother. And my plan is to purchase the lot from my brother, subdivide the lot between this lot and 61 Kingsley Lane, which is a short or waterfront lot. Combine some of that land into 54, but not to construct a septic system and build a home for myself that I was living. We did do the sidewalk. I don't know, Isabella, do you have a chance to put the plan up or? The property's fairly narrow, and long, it's got a lot of frontage along Kingsley Lane. Kingsley Lane's much higher then, front on Kingsley Lane is much higher, and then in open area, that's near what I call the field lot. My plan would be to do a walkout house where it would be a ranch style at about street level. The ground floor would be mostly garage, and storage. There is a wetland system to the south of the property. And then Meadow Brook is even further south to the property. A part of the 100-foot buffer to a wetland and canal extends onto the property. There's about 700 square feet of work that for permanent disturbance I would be doing in constructing a small portion of a driveway. And then there's some additional area adjacent to the driveway where it'd be clearing some trees and doing some grading. I've sited the house to kind of stay as far away from the wetland as I can. There's some topographic challenges there. There's a lot of ledge as there is everywhere in Mendon. And where I've sited the house is where there's kind of like a hollow between ledge. I move the house any further north and be having to excavate significantly larger amount of ledge. The modest size house is about 1,500 square feet. If you want me to, I can kind of explain. I also, Isabel, did you get the email that I sent? I had put together just the exhibit plan. I've got 6 copies.
There should be one in the packets here.
This was not included with the original. I put this exhibit plan together.
Okay,
Today, or emailed it.
yeah, please.
Today?
Yeah, I just probably about 4 o'clock. I emailed it.
I don't think I got. Something's been happening with our IT and they're quarantining emails,
It's worldwide. Microsoft is having issues with OneDrive and other Microsoft applications.
Yeah, I
So-
did not get an email. Do you see my screen or no?
We're seeing you sharing a site plan.
That's the black and white site plan. What I did with this exhibit plan is I kind of zoomed out and took some features from the site plan and placed it on. So you can kind of follow the white lines of the 3 different property lines. 61 is the skinny one with the house on Nipmuc Pond. And then there's a weird shaped lot in between that and where I'm showing a kind of a pinkish rectangle. So the pinkish rectangle is where the house would be located. The gray area is where the driveway would be going to the foundation, under the foundation. The yellow line that I've dashed there is the 100-foot buffer line. And the red line is the limited disturbance. You can see that portion of the gray driveway extends onto the buffer zone, and then between the red line and the driveway, that's the area that would be disturbed for grading and maybe some tree line. So there's some features that you see on the plan. One looks like a river or a brook. That's actually not. That's the canal that I kind of pointed out during the site walk. That was dug at some time. I don't know. Long time ago. I don't know why it was dug. Probably to allow more lots to access the pond.
It's still a wetland system.
It's a wetland system, yes, and that's where the 100-foot buffer zone is coming from. If you go further to the south, you'll see a darker, another linear feature, and that is Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook's about 350 feet away from the closest disturbance on the slot. What I'm here for tonight is to request that, again, to issue a negative determination of applicability that I would need to file a notice of intent due to the limited work that would be done in the buffer zone. Again, the septic system's outside of it, all of the home, the majority of the driveway, and there really isn't a way for me to configure that driveway due to the topo to keep that out of the buffer zone as well.
Mr. Chairman, I have a procedural question.
Go ahead, Carl.
The applicant said that he sent an updated plan at 4 p.m., which we do not have. Does the applicant want us to wait until the next meeting when we get the new plan, or does he want us to approve what we have in front of us right now? Because we can't approve something we don't see.
Correct. What I'm asking is to approve the plan that was submitted originally. What I have here is just kind of an exhibit that highlights some features of that plan just to give a better understanding.
Okay, so there's nothing structural changes, just colors and things.
The only thing that this new document speaks to is it's a color picture that is enlarged from just the site itself. It incorporates the surrounding areas around the site to get
Okay.
a more accurate description of the conditions of the area.
Okay, so
It has no
then,
bearing on what's in front of us.
okay, so then when Isabella is closing the paperwork for this, make sure you don't use the stuff from 4 o'clock today, because that's not what we're voting on.
I
Correct.
think it's just colored.
It
Mhm.
is.
Could I ask a question,
Um,
please?
So Patty, you all set?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, I'll open it up to the board. First, we'll go with members online.
No, it's another case. I didn't go on the sidewalk, so I will sit back and rely on other people.
Okay, Terry?
Yeah, who will own the lot with the two septic systems on it, which is within the 100-foot line?
So, it'd be subdivided so that the new septic system would be part of 54.
Okay, and that will be, I don't have a directional thing, but that will be closer to the top of your drawing here.
Yeah, I'll show you the line that's shown on here. Right now, the property line goes straight and connects to the southern area. It'd be a new property line would come like this.
I thought that was the septic line.
Yeah, that would be a new property line. That, I did receive some comments from Board of Health, or one comment, and it's something that I had missed. The Title V regs changed in 2023 to include nitrogen sensitive areas. And I had thought that they were just the areas that were identified on the map as being down the Cape. But there is a section that says that lots that have both well and a septic are nitrogen sensitive areas. And that limits the lot size has to be a minimum of 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So this lot 54 needs to be 30,000 square feet. So I will have to adjust the property line shown on this plan through the A&R process, but it would not change any of the work that's being shown.
Okay,
So
so
it wouldn't be anything different than.
Does that, do you have to go to zoning for that?
No.
Not being 60,000 square feet?
No, it's a grandfathered lot. That was created before zoning.
okay, but you're subdividing the lot.
Right,
No.
we're changing lot lines.
I'm taking land adjacent to it and increasing the lot size. There's case law that says that.
Okay, well, I guess my question, and forgive me for not being able to articulate this as clearly as I should. The septic system that will belong to this house will be part of the lot of this house.
Yes.
Let me see if I can get an answer to that. Will it be a shared system?
No.
No, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out. Okay, and that is a subdivision that you're gonna have to do.
It's an A&R plan that it's not a subdivision by right. It is a plan that's going to divide the property, but it's not going to create any new lots. It's
Okay,
going to adjust the
but
property.
the owner of the new house will own that portion of the lot?
Yes.
Will there be an easement on that lot for the septic system? So that should you ever sell it, either house.
No, the property line's being adjusted so that the septic system is on the spot.
Okay. And that would more be a planning board issue at that point, correct? Yes.
But I just was curious because it's within the buffer area, that lot.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and maybe it's not appropriate, but it's kind of complex. The existing building that, it looks like it's off your land, right? Is that a problem with the other neighbor or is? You don't know.
That existing building is a shed, and it's, so, I'll show you this is probably.
Because I see an existing leach field for 61 Kinsley.
Right.
So which is the building?
So 61 Kinsley Lane is here, and it extends up to the lake, which is here.
There's a house on that now,
There's a house.
and that's the leach field that serves.
This is the leach field that serves that. This is a shed, just that we have some storage in. There's actually another little shed here. What likely is going to happen is that once we change 60 or change the property line here, the remainder of 60 will just be absorbed by 61. So in essence, there'll be two lots, 61 and 54, and 60 will go away. It's 60 right now is a parcel. It's not a buildable. We had purchased this land, I think, in somewhere around 1998, in order to construct the septic system for 61 when we were doing a renovation.
So that building, would you say is a garage, that's.
Yeah, it's a 12 by 20 shed. It's
I think you still have horses. The horse.
yeah, we had horses, but this was always a shed, and then there's a stable on the end of it.
And then my other question, and it's also off the property, but it's kind of interesting, is down on the bottom, you got a 12-inch pipe to help water, I guess, get under Kinsley Lane, but you don't, who owns that land? Is that part of the right of way or?
Part of the right of way, and it's actually the town ended up purchasing a large part of land. It's Meadow
Land trust, isn't it?
No, I think it's town. It's not the land trust. I think the town owns it.
They own the easement, I think.
It's part of the Meadowbrook Uplands, I think is it's called. So it's part of the Meadowbrook Uplands that the town purchased several years
Is
ago.
that the pipe that we were looking at, that we were trying to identify the end?
Yeah, and you know, like I said, I've been here since I was born. There's never any flowing water or anything in there. I think what probably happened is when they built that road and created a hollow, they put a pipe in.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So I don't have questions.
Leah?
Is the building there?
Yeah,
Can we require either replication or restoration for the part of the area that's in the buffer zone? You know, the driveway.
sorry. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Are we able to require restoration or replication for the 700 square feet that the driveway is going to be taking up in the buffer zone?
How would you restore it?
Typically,
Replicate buffer?
you typically let buildings in the 50, 100 foot buffer zone, so it's permittable.
Okay, so he doesn't have to he doesn't have to restore or replicate.
No.
Any other questions?
The only other question I have is just, I would like to see, maybe the final plan once the zoning is all squared away and just to kind of get a better picture of things. But that's just my personal.
That'll
I-
happen when he submits the NOI.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's a request that an NOI requires. It's kind of weird. That's part of the 38 plans. The negative determination is made, then this is your review.
We'll see. Okay, we'll be able to review that.
No, this would be the review.
right now he's asking us to look at this plan and say that we're okay with it. If we're not okay with it, then he has to file an NOI, and then he'll get a whole new set of plans and then it'll come in front of us again.
Or if I decided that I don't want to put 700 square feet in the driveway and I want to put 10,000. That's not the plan that you looked at during this RDA process. I have to come back to you.
Could,
I'm looking at this, but
Now, there were several people on the site walk. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the site walk?
did we find out where the outflow of the pipe under the road went?
No, that's with the snow and stuff, I didn't go out there. And dig it up. But, like I said, I grew up there. And there's never been any water coming through there, but I certainly will while I'm doing work out there.
once you're here through that lunch and things could change, maybe that might.
No, what I, it could be a condition that's already similar to that I expose that, keep the leaves away from it.
And with,
The site walk, when I went on it, Leah, that's a small depression where he is, but it holds no water. We saw no signs that it was going to hold water. I think he's going to be building mainly on what's there and then filling around his foundation. So he's going to be taking that hollow and making it flat.
Going through ledges, you have to go through the whole ledge there, so you're gonna be drilling and stuff like that.
He's doing what?
Ledge, there's
Yes.
ledge there, so you're gonna have to remove
The
some
next
of the
hearing, yes. And if you put the site plan back up and kind of show you that the drainage area going to there is kind of limited.
Do you think drilling through ledge might create excess water flow or anything like that? Depends on the method.
He's at the top of the hill.
You're gonna be doing dry, it would typically just be dry blasting, right?
No blasting, it would just be.
Oh, hammering. No water
Splitting.
involved in the hammering. Yeah, like drilling like.
where's the
You're gonna have
drain?
to take out 2 feet of ledge in
That's
that
a lot
corner.
of ledge.
Yes, and part of this is, if I did have a site contractor on site with me who built at least one other home on the road. His feeling is that stone, that type of ledge there is not that very
Workable.
It's workable, it's fractured, I guess, soft rock, yeah. But he thought just with his hammer and a smaller machine, would be able to do it. Plus it's not like you're hammering, ledge on a flat ground, kind of working a vertical edge and it breaks towards you.
Where's the drainage from the new house and driveway gonna go?
It would go towards that hollow, towards that low area.
Where the pipe is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll go through the pipe and out into the buffer area?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'd like to address the staff comment before we make a motion about a pre-construction meeting.
Right, and that's, once you get your silt fence in,
Yes.
then we'd like to take a second site walk and make sure that everything is as it should be.
Well, it doesn't need to be a sidewalk. It might just be Isabella going out and reviewing their erosion control. If other people wanted to go, yeah, but it's not usually a sidewalk.
Okay. Pat, you okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody else okay with that?
Yeah, I'm assuming that should be part of the motion as a condition.
Okay,
Just a question, are there going to be perimeter drain? So I'm looking at the driveway, it looks like it's good that it's not coming out to the road. It's like going to head towards,
So, yeah, like,
so it's not gonna get to the road. But if you're gonna have everything from the house, that's a fair amount of water coming all to that one space. Are there gonna be downspouts?
yes, yeah.
And perimeter drain?
They're definitely on the uphill side, yes.
And then where would the permanent drain outlet or would it not out?
We would all daylight just before getting to that low area. The pipes.
So you would bring it under the driveway in daylight.
Drains under the
You bring
road.
it under the driveway pad or under the road?
Under the driveway, and then it would, that low area where the pipe is now, that will remain the low area.
Right, so you're hoping to use that 12-inch pipe that's under the road to exit the water off your property.
Yeah, if it builds up, yes. It would be, there is a depression before the pipe, so likely, or right away. But no, it wouldn't reach the pipe because there's a low area in front of it. But yeah, there is,
Would you be okay with, since you're breaking ledge anyways, putting some riprap in front of the pipe?
oh, yes, absolutely, it's a lot easier to clean
Keep
it
the
up.
mud or dirt,
And I can
anything.
even do it on
any
the
sediments.
property as well, once I expose it.
And just a question, so the gravel drive is guest parking?
No, that's probably gonna be primary parking.
Primary parking instead of driving.
So my plan, I've always lived in colonials, and now I live in a ranch, and I absolutely love it. I'm hoping that's, what ideally will happen is, I've got, boats and jet skis and what. I don't normally park in my garage anyways, that's more gonna be for storage. And the upper driveway would be kind of the one that's used, and then I'd be living on the upper floor and then the downstairs. The garage, it's usable. On nights like, days like Sunday, I'd probably park in it. But this coming Sunday, but on the normal basis, I would.
And I'm curious, and forgive me, I'm kind of new to this state. Is it normal in Mendon and in Massachusetts to have drainage from one property drain into another property?
So the rule of thumb is you don't want to change drainage patterns. But it would be impossible, if you lived on a hill, for instance.
No, I understand. I've been to the site.
The kind of rule of thumb is you should increase the runoff or cause flooding.
Okay, I'm just curious, if I was the owner of that lot, which I'm not, and you're coming in and dumping a bunch of water onto my property, what is my recourse to that?
In we're talking about the outlet of the pipe that's under the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that really just goes right to a wetland. Wouldn't impact.
I understand.
buildability.
Well, I think
I understand that.
Is that in a subdivision, that's all the engineering is required, not the volume of water, but the speed of the water. The rate of the water has to stay the same. When it comes to a single family, we kind of ignore that and assume that it's kind of like de minimis, and that it's not going to be a problem. However, if a neighbor has a concern, I guess the applicant would have to show that he's not causing harm or flooding, or I'm not quite sure how that would get
Okay,
worked out.
I'm to figure,
Yeah, the perfect example is when I did live on Park Street. A new home was created, it was higher elevation. And, I didn't necessarily go to the meeting, but I talked to the owner and the builder and just expressed my concern that they've got a swing set down there. It looks like all your water's gonna go there. But it's coming from 1 acre of land, it doesn't end up being all that much water. And they ended up putting in a little swale just to be sure.
Do you know who owns the land across the street from you?
We all do. That's part of the
town.
Okay,
part of the
so it's part of the Mendon trail system.
And that was my concern, because it's not even taking all that, which before would have, now it's concentrating it, bringing it all to one spot. So it is mildly problematic, but
That drive
there
is
is,
carried up.
Right, but it's the only change, well, it's all rock, it doesn't, you go from rock, mostly rock to a home, so it's not that much pervious surface that we're changing.
And then,
But it is a small amount. When you do the calculations, it's so minor that it's not something that you would consider.
right, so that's also the question, if you put in a perimeter drain in stone, there's a chance that that water can infiltrate in your perimeter drain before it gets to daylight. Right?
It's all rock again, you know, so it's not, it's such a small,
Yeah, but you're putting in stone. I mean, you're putting stone around your foundation wall, right? That's where the perimeter drain goes.
correct, and we're above the water table. And so it's,
That's a good thing. So you have that storage space in the stone of the trench that can take some of that water. I'm just trying to help you.
no, I understand, but you know, again, it's a single house, it's smallish house.
I think what you're trying to get to is that because you're on stone and you're adding dirt, that way there you create more impervious material, pervious material, and therefore will absorb the water and therefore mitigate the amount of water that would be going towards that line. So at this point, if there's no more questions, I would entertain a motion for either a determination of applicability or any other ideas the board has.
The motion should include what you asked about riprapping.
Okay.
Do we need to close the?
So I'm looking for a motion to close the hearing.
I'll move that.
Now, before I get a second on that, I have a question that maybe Isabella or Carol, you might be able to answer. If we're gonna close this, and he's asking for an RDA, are we locked into an RDA if somebody wants an NOI?
The applicant can come back if he changes his mind, and he talked briefly about under what circumstances that might happen.
I mean, so
Right, if
you're
you
gonna close
increase.
the, you have to close
Go ahead,
the
Isabel.
public hearing. You have to close the public hearing and vote on the RDA. My recommendation is a negative RDA because there's likely no impact to wetlands. If the commission is determining that there are going to be impacts to wetlands, you can do a positive RDA requiring an NOI be filed. However, not much of the property is within the buffer zone. So I don't know what you would require that's within the buffer zone in an NOI. So you'd have to be clear in the case of an appeal or anything, but yes, your determination has to include why you find wetland impacts if you're making a positive.
Thank you, Isabella. All right, so there's a motion on the table to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Actually, if I have just one question before the hearing, because since it's not on the plan as to where you're gonna daylight, I'm hoping that you could daylight it not in the buffer. It seems like there's just a little bit of spot there that you could catch the daylight.
I don't think I'd be able to catch the like we're in the buffer. I'd have to move it
Not gonna have to.
towards the west.
I saw.
Yeah,
Well, I
but
don't think there's a spot here.
that is acceptable as in all likelihood, the best spot is going to be further down the driveway, it's going to be outside of the buffer.
At this point, I'll take a roll call vote.
Carl Hummel, aye.
For
Susan Hale, you were nay.
Drop an eye.
Bob Sweet, aye. Motion passes with one nay. Now, the condition on that, I believe, no. Carl, when do I put the condition about the riprap near the pipe?
Someone would make a motion with what's in the motion sheet. They would make a motion with including the pre-construction meeting, and then they make also the condition to do whatever specific thing you wanted to done with the riprap, and I don't know what it is you exactly wanted riprapped.
Okay, so at this point now, the public hearing's closed, but now we have to issue the negative determination with a positive B and a negative.
Okay, let me try and make the motion. I move to issue a determination of applicability with a positive 2B, a negative 3 for 54 Kinsley Lane, number 26-001. And there will be two conditions. The first condition is that the applicant will schedule a pre-construction meeting with the agent to review erosion controls, and then the agent would be able to let other board members and commission members know if they wanted to attend. And second condition is to put riprap in front of the outflow pipe. And I'd ask Bob to clarify exactly did I say that right, or is the riprap going someplace else? Okay, great. So the motion has been made.
Second.
Any discussion? Right, at this point, I'll take a roll call vote.
Carl Hubbell, aye.
To accept.
Ernst, aye.
Voted?
Oh, sorry.
Are you for it or not? There's a motion to approve.
Approval with conditions of riprap around the outflow pipe and
Yes.
the pre-construction site visit. Leah,
Nay.
You're talking aye.
Bob Sweet, aye. Motion passes with one nay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right, so now, item agenda number 6, notice of intent to Nipmuc Drive, DEP number 2180870.
I got an email from Mike. They've requested to continue the public hearing again. And then the other portion is to add an appendix to the enforcement order documenting the invasive species management plan that was approved. So I put it in the packet with the list of conditions that we went over at the December meeting. And Mike has approved, and Benny Pinto has also seen it. So the applicant agrees to the conditions in the appendix. So there's two motions. One to accept the conditions in the appendix to the enforcement order, and then also a motion to continue the public hearing. I'm reading that now. That's the wrong date. So February 12th, not January 8th.
So are we okay with doing the enforcement order amendment tonight? If they've agreed?
I'd like,
Yeah, I'd like to review it. more.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to continue? I move to continue the public hearing to Nipmuc Drive to January, whatever that date Isabella just said. 12th, 2026.
Second.
All right, so a motion's been made and seconded to continue the public hearing for 2 Nipmuc Road, 2 Nipmuc Drive, DP number 2180870 until the February meeting,
The 12th.
Well, yeah.
the February 12th meeting. Any discussion? At this point, I'll take a roll call vote.
Carl Hummel, aye.
Ernst, aye.
Susan Cahill and I.
You like time?
You're talking aye.
Bob Sweet, aye. Motion passes unanimous. I think this is the one that you gentlemen are waiting for. Item agenda number 7, 39 Millville Street, COC, request for EP number 2180858. Request for certificate of compliance, for work done on Any comments, any questions?
Could I ask the applicant something?
You can.
Thank you.
You guys want to come up? Okay.
Just for those who were not at the site visit, we didn't see a lot of stuff into the snow. So we were sent pictures by
Yeah.
today. My only question was, in the iced over area of the lake, was anything put there? Sand or any other?
No, there was sand there originally. That entire area was all beach. We bought that. So what is growing up is, I think this Joe pine growing there, which is nice. And so there's a vegetation back with that. So there's nothing, that was part of it. Well, that's the other.
I have a question. In front of the wall, there's a 3-foot section of riprap. And then there is aquatic growth. Is that staying, or are you gonna try and manage that in the future?
I think we should, there's some Joe pine going there. I would like to see vegetation. It's built to the flooring, so we would like to see that, this grow, Joe pine, vegetation grow that's natural.
Okay.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have the road stairs with like a little area that just have access to the water with this little sand here.
Right, and you're gonna have the stairs going up.
Good to see it, just,
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you'll have the dock on the other side.
Yes.
Are you looking into a dock permit?
We haven't yet. We learned a lot tonight. We're looking at and carry it with the gentleman.
So that would, be something that would be nice to see. So if you could work on that, that'd be great. Any questions? Anybody on Teams have any questions?
Nope.
I do have one little question. Isabella, how would they go about removing some of that purple stripe?
They can pull it by hand, which is a little difficult.
Gonna-
Or, with like a hand shovel. We have done the purple loosestrife treatment with water and wetland, so I think this area was potentially treated this past fall. And whether the commission continues that with the Lake Nipmuc Association in the upcoming years, but hand removals and disposal in a black trash bag is, in my opinion, effective.
Is it best to remove it before it flowers? That's what we're being told.
Yeah.
But,
Get it out early. Because
Okay.
you're gonna see it a couple of times.
okay, yeah.
You're gonna
That
have to
makes
see it
sense.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
Important to do that, so. Yeah.
Nice job.
That'd be great if we could.
You guys are part of the.
I know so they were looking into that, I think, last year.
So they're a good resource for information as well.
Right.
All right, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the COC for 39 Millville Street.
I'll do that. I move to issue this certificate of compliance for 39 Millville Street, DEP number 218-0858.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, all those in favor?
Carl
Aye.
Hummel, aye.
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 Bob Sweet, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been great working with all.
You can pass that along.
I will pass that along, because, yeah, it's just, that's the thing.
We are not the enemy.
Yeah, no.
Make sure everybody is treated fairly.
We'll see you sometime in the near future, probably.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to stay for the.
Okay, Isabella, anything on the town forest, discussion?
Mr. McCarthy came in today and asked to be moved to the February 12th agenda, so we can skip it.
Okay. Okay, so item agenda number 9, updates, the chair, I don't have anything. Adrian, do you have anything new, Isabella?
I've been working on the trails grant and another trail grant that we have in partnership with Blackstone, Bellingham, and CMRPC. I submitted the annual report, which you all got, and then also the budget. Mostly just the 3% increase for services, water and wetland has gone up and some other things. And so, we'll be moving into budget season, but that's what I've been working on.
And do we have the funds in the treasury to cover this? The 3% increase?
We're looking for a level service budget, so cost of living increase.
I think I can address that as putting on my finance committee hat. The Conservation Commission has 2 different pools of money to pull from. The 3% Isabella is talking about is coming from the annual meetings appropriation of town money to support the Conservation Commission. It's not coming from the funds that the state law allows us to collect as part of conservation stuff.
Thank you, Carl. Anything else said, Isabella, or anything else?
That's one quick question.
Yeah, and then if anyone wants to sign up for the MACC spring conference, they can email me.
What was your question, Susan?
So I noticed up on North Ave, they flagged a bunch of land, they used to be where the old farm was. Is that part of the Vandersloot property? Does anyone know? Just curious, it's not.
Are you talking right at the where you go into Upton?
No, right before Hopedale Street. There's a library trust and then there's. Some of these.
They were supposed to put a riding arena in there, Shirley Smith Memorial Riding Arena.
No, but it's on the other side of the stone wall, I don't think that's part of that.
Oh, so isn't that part of the, that was a community garden.
Yes, it was,
last time.
yes. Yes, I grew stuff there.
Oh, okay,
I did know that.
so,
Here's fitting on here. There's no wetlands involved, so probably not, but.
you don't have anything on the land use, do you?
I have no idea.
Okay, so, all right, then, the Lake Nipmuc Task Force, the Lake Nipmuc Association is closed until May, so they don't have any new information. We'll find out in May when they start back up what their agenda is. And Land Use Committee?
Land use, am I getting my, meetings mixed up, but we met with Terry and Isabella about how to plan for open space. And am I right, there's a meeting being scheduled for next Tuesday at 10? And are other people interested in attending, or you're coming?
What's that for again?
Mr. Terry, want to talk about
Yeah,
it?
it's just our group.
Okay.
And it's just to go over kind of like what could be a first phase, and then we would bring that back to the committee in terms of this is what we'd like to do in first phase.
This Tuesday coming,
Pardon me?
this coming Tuesday.
Well, that's what I mean by next
Tuesday at 10.
Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Tuesdays at 10 a.m.
Where's that gonna be?
Yeah, you have to be careful. We don't want to quorum of the commission at this point in time because it's not advertised.
that point, one. Lost my place. Item agenda number 10, review and approve minutes for December 11th. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes for December 11th?
I move to accept the minutes for December 11th, 2025.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carl Hummel, aye.
I,
Motion passes unanimously. And good and welfare for the commission. Does anybody have anything that they want to discuss?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to bounce up and down very happily at Isabella for the great work she did, not just on the annual report, but the stuff she's been doing for the past year for us. Go, Isabella.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Thank you for all your hard work and your dedication. Okay, item number 12, items not reasonably anticipated. Isabella, do we have anything?
Good on my end.
Okay, anybody on the board have anything? All right. Then,
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Carl
motion's
Hummel,
been made
aye.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Isabella, are you?
I
Thank
just
you.
stopped the transcript, the recording.
Why did I say it's? Maybe it was done to me.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Oh, before you guys leave.
Yeah.
We have to sign the two determinations and the COC. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put all three of them right here. And then hopefully a fantastic planning board has given us pens.
So Benner's. Mike, yes.
Yeah, I think so. And now we're down to waste. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm down with that. I didn't want to say that she wasn't, I mean, it's not my place. No, that, the ceremony takes place at the spring.
I don't know why they call it the spring conference, it's at the end of February.
I know.
Yeah.
can you look at USGS when you have a moment and
Yeah.
tell me what the geology of Muddy Brook North is?
Muddy Brook North?
If an NG or something like that on the USGS.
Okay.
Not right now, they just,
No, I was thinking of, what, Muddy Brook North?
yeah. It's a strip that goes really long.
Remind me, we talked about that last, Muddy Brook North. Was this the NG? I should know.
Peter, you have to go down and look at.
I usually do a lot, not too much these days, but when,
Right before you get into Oxford,
yeah.
they've been doing a lot of work over there.
Yeah,
On
there's
the
a big,
left-hand side.
big house, yeah.
Is that in Mender or something?
Is that just a single family house or is that?
It looks like it.
Because, I mean, they had skitters in there.
I think it's there.
So I just don't know if there's anything more going on there, like a development gonna go in or then.
I only saw from the, I can only see what's from the road and I only saw one house, but who knows? I don't know.
I was gonna
I think it's-
jump in the house or anything?
I saw a house up there.
Okay,
Yeah, and a really super long driveway.
okay, no, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, pretty much, it's pretty close to the line.
Right. It's probably in both towns.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got your bees fed dog?
Yeah,
They looking okay?
they seem to be, yeah. I mean, I had a few dead that, were in the opening that kicked out. But I opened up the top to feed them and they were all eating what I had put in. So far, so good.
Careful. We're not gonna have exploding trees here though.
No, it's clear.
Exploding trees up in Minnesota.
Exploding trees.
Yeah, because they go, get minus 40. It's a thing. Unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of like when they get too hot, they explode.
What do we have to do in this room when we leave this room? Do we have to shut that TV off or?
I can take care of it.
Ready, are you gonna cook? So. Alexa. See you guys later. Bye. Yeah.
Like me go quick. Is this you?
Okay.
It's just the agenda.
Okay. Maybe it's easy if I go to job site, go to members. You guys ever, outside, or something.
You better go, okay?
I don't get. But it's just like, oh, it's like, shit, people are still on the front. Even the work of fingers.
It's just extended the day. And at
So-
the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is.
That's what that. Somebody would be.
They're only gonna be here for so long,
Yeah.
and then they'll be back.
My 10 minutes.
See who doesn't have.
Guess they'll be back, right? I remember.
Everybody here.
Well, guess I'm eating with mints. Right.
It's forward.
When I try to make that thing on Tuesday, I just don't.
Have a good night, Susan.